Oh, wow. All righty. Yeah, this is fun. Yeah. I'm going to have to tune in on that. Profiles and Hope. Oh, yeah. Uh-huh. And I know where you can get that hope, too. All righty. Stand by for action. My name is Clifford Stumpf, and my amateur radio call sign is KA8GOV. That's Kilo Alpha 8, Golf Oscar Victor. Take a commercial break, and I'll be right back.
This is Profiles in Hope. I'm Mary Crockett. Our journey with Clifford starts in Ohio. Before he could talk or walk, the state removed him from the home he shared with his parents and his siblings.
I used to live in a foster home in Springfield, Ohio. My mom had nervous breakdowns, and my dad was out of work. The kids wasn't eating properly, and living conditions wasn't all that great, and Children's Services decided that it was best that they would find us a better place to live. At one time, there was 4 of us, and we was all 4 taken away. But 3 of them came back home, but they decided to keep me in Springfield. And so I stayed in Springfield up until I was 14. I was the 4th one born. I moved in with the Howards in 1958. She was from Washington Courthouse, Ohio, originally, and my foster dad, too. My foster mom, she was a Christian person, and she went to a Baptist church, and she was a Sunday school superintendent and a children's choir director with the Blessed Hope Baptist Church. I'm glad that I lived in a foster home because if I wasn't, I would probably be a mess. We used to go to Blessed Hope Baptist Church, where it's right across the street from Emerson School, and they've been over there ever since 1960, over on Kentridge Road in Springfield, Ohio. And I went to that church for a real long time.
Church had a significant role in Clifford's life when he lived with the Howards. The song, Are You Washed in the Blood, is still one of his favorites. The hymn was written in 1872 by E.A. Hoffman, a minister from Napoleon, Ohio.
13, I got saved. I accepted the Lord Jesus Christ as my personal Savior. I've been with the Lord now for almost 54 years in December. The Lord was working on me. And the next day, Ken Andrews, who was our preacher at Blessed Hope, he was preaching about heaven and hell. The Holy Spirit was working on me and saying, Cliff, you need to accept me as personal Savior. And when the invitation was made, I went down towards the front and I talked to Mr. Cartmill. And Mr. Cartmill showed me in the Bible that how I was a sinner, accepted the Lord, got baptized on the 1st of February of 1969, and they do the immersion stuff. No sprinkling, they do the immersion. And you know what? I was only a member of that church for about a couple of months.
After raising Clifford for more than a decade, Mrs. Howard found herself in tears as she gave her foster son some news that would alter the course of his life.
So one day I came home from school and my foster mom was crying. And I thought her dad passed away because her dad was up in years. And I said, Mom, what's wrong? You're crying. What's wrong? And I said, did Grandpa pass away? And she said, no, but I need to talk to you. And I said, uh-oh, what'd I do now? And she said, you didn't do nothing, but I need to talk to you. Have a seat, please. And I had a seat, and she said, Cliffy, she used to call me Cliffy. And she says, Cliffy, if you could go anywhere in the world, where would you want to go? And I said, well, I wish I could know who my real family is, And she said, well, you're going to go in 2 weeks. And I was happy about it, but she was sad. I hated to see her like that. I gave her a hug and everything, and I said, well, I'm sorry that this happened. And she, oh, no, and everything. So 2 weeks later, I moved out. I came home from school, and my stuff was all packed and ready to go, and I spent the night at the Clark County Children's Home, and then on April the 19th, I moved home.
Clifford walked out of the Howard home to return to his biological family. But this wouldn't be the last time that he would see his foster parents.
Well, they was getting up in years, but I used to go visit them, and I would ask if I could come and spend the weekend or something like that, and I would go visit them once in a while. If they wasn't busy and if it was okay to go visit, I would get on the Greyhound bus and go down to Springfield, and they would meet me at the bus station, and I would spend the weekend with them and like on holidays, and they would let me know when it was okay to come down. And I might come down maybe once every 3 months or something like that.
Clifford was excited to go back to live with his birth parents. He had no memories of them, but he wanted to be with the people who gave him life. And he had no idea what he'd be walking into once there. But he started to see the differences between where he came from and how he grew up, and the reality of being a member of the Stumpf family.
My dad said that he wanted me to come home. He went to Clark County Children's Home, and he talked to my caseworker. My mom, she really didn't agree to the idea, but my dad did, and I came home. You see, I was raised different. Now, I'm not saying that my brothers and stuff are all bad, but they just was not raised the way I was raised, and they was out. I wasn't allowed to run the streets after 6 o'clock at night. We was lucky to go to the playground and play, and we had a time period. If we didn't come home, like if we were supposed to be home at 4:30, and if we forgot what time it was, we didn't get to go to the playground the next day. Yeah. You could tell that some of the people that they hanged out with in Parkside Homes that it was not the right thing to do. And I used to sit in my room and read and stuff like that. I used to read a lot of books and stuff. I used to get books from the library and all that,
Clifford enjoyed getting to know his siblings. His brother had a talent for finding ways to earn money. But it wouldn't be a smooth transition for Clifford when he went back to the Stumpf household. While Clifford seemed to be getting along with his siblings, he had a difficult relationship with his mother. Once again, the state would have to return to his Parkside Apartments home and intervene.
I got close to my brother Mike. He used to be like a salesman, boy, let me tell you. He used to go to these parking lots at like Frisch's and Beef and Beer and places like that. And he would go into the spot and he would say, hey, would you like to have your lot clean? And I have a group out here that would help you clean your lot. And he would make the price and everything on cleaning the lot. And he would sell the job. We would have brooms and stuff and dustpans and baskets and stuff to put the trash in. And we would clean their lots. And he might get $20 or $30, and then he would split that with us. When I moved in with them, I didn't stay very long, unfortunately. But me and Mom did not get along. She would do stuff to me that wasn't right. I got kind of beat up on a little bit. And the school knew that there was a problem, and they had my caseworker and a visiting teacher come to the door. They came and they noticed I had a black eye and everything. They said, you coming with me? We went somewhere and we had a talk, and at first I didn't want to say anything. I was kind of scared. So finally I spilt the beans on what went on.
When Clifford left his parents' Parkside home, he moved into one of the 10 cottage homes at Shawn Acres. The 20-acre campus on North Main Street in Dayton was built in 1927. The children housed there had access to amenities such as a barber shop, a pool, and a gym that was also used as an auditorium. Around 1969, the orphanage averaged about 172 children and teens living in the cottages. Montgomery County stopped using the campus as an orphanage during the 1970s.
They said, well, Cliff, you don't need to live like that. We could put you in Shawn Acres right now. And they said, well, you could go get your stuff and we'll put you there right now. And sure enough, I said, all right, I'm going to do this. I got my stuff, and I couldn't get too much of it, but I got what I could. And I moved there in April of 1970, and I stayed there from 1970 to 75. And then I graduated from Meadowdale High School. It was pretty good. I've met some nice people and stuff, and I got to do some things.
The power of music. You feel it when you hear a certain song. It soothes and comforts your soul. Yet another tune can make you jump out of your seat and energize you. You can't sit still. Clifford reconnected with music after he moved to Shawn Acres as a teen. He crossed paths with Dayton funk legends Larry and Rufus Troutman, and the Troutman brothers were part of the family band Zapp. If you're a funk fan, you may have heard their hit song Bounce to the Ounce. It was pretty popular in the 80s. Clifford would also sing. No. There would be no funk music for Clifford. This young man was in the choir loft. After joining a church youth chorus, singing hymns would become his ticket to travel the globe, thousands of miles away from his home.
I used to go to Riverdale Church of Christ, and I used to sing in the Dayton Youth Chorus. I was in the baritone section. I was trying to find me a good Baptist church, but I couldn't find a good Baptist church. So I went to the Church of Christ church for a little bit. That was located over there on Turner Road, up there by Hare Arena. They had the Dayton Youth Chorus. And one time, we went to Europe. We went to London, England, Paris, France, Cologne and Frankfurt, Germany, Zurich, Switzerland, and Amsterdam, Holland. And it was a 17-day trip. And I was in the 8th grade, and I just graduated from the 8th grade and getting ready to go into high school. And I didn't go to my 8th grade graduation because we was on our way to Europe. Yeah.
We asked Clifford if he still sings.
No, not that much. Maybe in the shower.
Music wasn't the only love that Clifford found at Shawn Acres. Ham radios captured his heart, and it paved the way to him volunteering to be part of a team that helps others in crisis.
I was walking down the street one day, and I happened to go down this one street, and I happened to see this big old antenna on this guy's house. And I said, man, that guy must get good TV reception, because he had this big beam antenna. And I had a Sunday school teacher at Riverdale, and he was an electronic engineer at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base, and his name was Walt Melnick. And so one day we was coming home from church, and we went by that house, and I said, hey, Walt, can you do me a favor? And he says, what's that? I said, can you go around the block? I want to show you something. I'm curious about this. So we go around the block, and we stopped by that house, and I said, what kind of antenna is that? And he said, oh, that's an amateur radio antenna. And I said, amateur radio, what's that? And he went into the business of what it's about, how we help out with emergency communications, and you could talk to people worldwide and all kinds of stuff.
There are an estimated 3 million amateur radio operators around the world. Over 700,000 amateur radio operators in the United States, and more than 27,000 right here in Ohio are licensed by the Federal Communications Commission. In order to get a license, the FCC requires hams to pass a test for each class or type of license: novice, tech, tech plus, general, advanced, and extra.
I went for the technician class license, and I couldn't pass the theory test. I missed it by 1 or 2 or 3 or 4, or sometimes I would really be off, And they said, well, Cliff, just try it again. And I had a 30-day time frame, and then I would go back and try again, and still didn't get it. So finally, in November of 1995, they changed the rules. Oh, and not only that, it would be, tomorrow, it would be 43 years that the FCC decided that novices could renew their license. And I was under the 5-year limit. So I was able to renew my license, and that's how come I got the KA8 GOV call sign. And tomorrow will be 43 years that I've had that call, because I was on vacation in Florida, and that license came in on the 1st of July. And then when I came back, I saw my license and everything, and had my KA8 GOV as a novice still, and I was able to renew my license and everything like that. But in November of 1995, I got my technician class. And I went with my technician, and it took me a while to get it, but I finally got it in 1995. And then I start studying for the general some more. In November of 2016, I got my general. So I just wanted to get that license and prove to myself that I'm not a failure. Because let's take the Wright brothers, for example. They tried to make an airplane for a long time. And then in 1903, they finally did it, and it made it fly in North Carolina and so forth, and everything. And I bet you they were happy that they was able to do that. So I just wanted it to be like one of those inventors that kept on trying, even though they failed. They just kept on trying.
Xenia, a small southwest Ohio city, has been struck by tornadoes multiple times. Once in 1969, then 5 years later, 33 people in the Xenia area were killed when an F5 tornado touched down in the city. Around 1,300 people were injured on April 3rd, 1974. In 2000, yet another tornado, an F4 this time, struck the city, killing one person and injuring about 100 other people. Clifford jumped in to help using his ham radio and other skills, not only during these weather-related crises, but also to help with missing children cases. The Erica Baker case made national news. In 1999, 9-year-old Erica left her Kettering home with her dog. Before she walked out the door, she told her father she loved him and that she would see him later. It's been 23 years, and she's never been found.
I helped out with the Erica Baker Church. Also, when the 2 kids were missing in Urbana, we got called out for that one. One part I was helping out with, it was kind of like in 1974, I just got my license in February of 74, but I did help out with the Xenia tornado. Now, what we did there, I was with the group called the Far Out Amateur Radio Club, and we was a teenage group, and we was having, it was with Fairmont High School and Centerville, and we had Patterson Co-op that was involved in Meadowdale, and we met them at the Dayton Amateur Radio Club, and the teenagers felt kind of left out with the club, and they didn't. I don't know, back then they didn't care for the young people like they do now. And so the teenagers decided, well, we'll just form our own club. In 1973, they had the Far Out Amateur Radio Club, and we was having a meeting on a Saturday, and we get this call saying, hey, Bill Schaefer needs some help sorting out some messages, which were what we call traffic. And the people was taking it off of the VHF frequencies and giving it to Bill, and he would put it on the shortwave on ham radio and be able to send out information to the Red Cross, FEMA, and places like that on the Ohio Single Sideband traffic net. Yeah, but we was having our meeting on a Saturday afternoon at a person's house, and we got the call saying that they needed some help. So I went over there, and I was like a runner because I couldn't really operate the radio station because of my license class. Because I was a novice. They said, Cliff, give this to the guy that's in that room right over there. And I said, okay. And I gave it to him, and I put it in the box, and then he would take that message and send it out, Yeah, so we helped out with that. And then in 2001, when they had the other tornado, I helped out in an emergency shelter in Xenia, Ohio. I was working at Dorothy Lane Market out in Centerville, and I just started that job. And I worked on Monday and Tuesday. And unfortunately, this thing happened on a Wednesday night. And I was watching TV and the phone rang. I was a Red Cross volunteer. My friend Mike called me because he was the supervisor for that week. He says, "Hey, Cliff, are you available?" And I said, "Yeah, what's going on?" He said, "You don't know?" I said, "No, what's happening?" He says, "Well, Xenia just got hit by a tornado." I said, "Oh, okay." Because I was watching DATV or something and it didn't come on there. So I got a ride because I don't drive. So someone came and got me. We went to this certain spot and they set up an emergency shelter for the Xenia folks. But we didn't get no people come in. But I was there all night and wasn't too much radio messaging, but I just checked in once in a while and said, "Yeah, I'm still here," and but there wasn't nothing too much going on. But until later on, I think they might have got a couple people that showed up, but I was gone at that time. I called my boss at work and said, "Hey, we got this tornado that just happened, and they want me to respond to it. Is it okay if I?"
Dayton Skywarn was created after the 1974 Xenia tornado to help the National Weather Service. Skywarn, dubbed the Eyes of the National Weather Service, is a network of volunteers and emergency personnel. They provide the National Weather Service with first-hand sightings and observations during severe weather occurrences such as thunderstorms and tornadoes. Ham operators use their radios to communicate weather reports to the National Weather Service, who uses this information for weather warnings.
I'm a Dayton Skywarn weather spotter. I've been doing that ever since the Xenia tornado of 1974. They started that in 1974 with Dayton Skywarn. Frank Schwab and Robert Green talked to the National Weather Service in Dayton after the Xenia tornado because we was doing it on an unofficial basis. It was called the Weather Amateur Radio Network. And they used to have it on 6.4, and I used to listen in on my scanner. And then later on, I got to participate, Yeah, not a weather chaser. We're not allowed to chase the storm. When I see something in the area, I report it, You don't have to be a ham operator to do this. You can take the training whenever they have it, like either online. They usually start like in February. They have these classes, and it takes about 4 hours. I do the training once a year.
On Memorial Day 2019, a tornado outbreak hit the Dayton, Ohio area. Multiple tornadoes rated EF4, EF3, and EF2 injured about 165 people. Again, Clifford volunteered to help with the weather crisis.
When my weather monitor went off and they issued a tornado watch, and of course the people from the news media and especially Channel 7 News, she was monitoring the weather, and she told everybody that we may have a problem here later on, and sure enough we did. And Dayton Skywarn was activated, and we were activated to the National Weather Service. They call our emergency coordinators, and they get on the radio, and they say, "This is Dayton Skywarn, W8OK. We're activating the Dayton Skywarn net at this time," and they put on what they call the double beep, and when you transmit, and it will go beep beep, and that will let people know that it's a directed net, and you can't interfere with the net unless you have a message for them. So they contact the counties that we cover, and they will check in and say, "I'm W8 so-and-so in Miami County, and I'm checking in," and then they will report in to what they see in Miami County or whatever counties that we cover, and everything like that. So, and everything.
Thank you for your service. Clifford went on to hold different jobs after he got his ham radio license, but a combination of losing a loved one and tough economic conditions, a recession in the early 80s, all made getting a job difficult, and it would eventually affect his housing.
I was working at Shepco Electronics, and it was an amateur radio store. Well, a friend of mine was a ham operator. He knew Mr. Rubin, and he put in a good word for me. And Mr. Rubin talked to me, and Mr. Wiggins. They gave me a little test, but I'm not good at testing that well. And I didn't do too good on that test because they wanted me like to learn how to run a cash register and all that, and I'm not good at that. And they said, well, we could put you as an order filler. And I was an order filler at Shepco. And a person would call in an order, and I would go do your shopping for you. And then I would take it back to the shipping department, and they would put it in the boxes and ship it to you. I worked there for 2 years, and I wanted to do something a little bit better. I ended up getting a job at a nursing home. I was working as a janitor there. The pay was a little bit better. Unfortunately, though, the guy, he didn't show me too much about what to do, and I was trying to do the best I could, and they only kept me a week, and that put me out of a job, and I was out of a job for a little bit. So I went to I was working through BVR, Bureau of Vocational Rehabilitation, and I went to Goodwill on Coon Street, North Dayton, and they gave me some training. I went through BVR, and I got me a job working at the Veterans Hospital. It was called the Brown Hospital. And I had the VA hospital. And I worked in food service there. And I wasn't no big shot or nothing like that. I was a labor type person. I washed dishes, delivered trays, picked up the trays, worked on the line where they passed out the food. I was living like on North Broadway, and then unfortunately my foster dad passed away in 1981, and that kind of messed me up. I was pretty close to him. I ended up losing my job because I was in that depression mode, and I had to go through Eastway and get some counseling, and I was able to get through that. You know, I tried to get another job. I had a hard time getting another job. My one friend was suggesting, you need to get on Social Security. And I said, I don't know about that. I'd rather be working. I was fighting that. And I kept on trying to get a job. And I was not able to get a job, but I needed to pay my rent and stuff. And then that's when I start moving in with people, and because I just lost my apartment. So I ended up on Social Security, even though I didn't want to, but I ended up on Social Security, and I got on there in 1985, and I've been on it ever since. And I did have like little jobs on the side and did some nursing home work and working in food service. But Social Security, they were saying, you know, if you're working, then we gotta take so much money out of your check. And that wasn't too good. So then I just decided, well, I'll just stay on disability. But now I'm not on disability no more.
We asked Clifford how he got through his depression over the loss of his foster father and his struggles with unemployment.
The Lord Jesus Christ. You know, just a lot of praying and a lot of church.
As a result of his struggles with employment, Clifford had a hard time finding a home of his own. At times, he was forced to live with others for one reason or another, before finding his current home in Twin Towers Place. I
was 30 years old. I was living down the street here at Eastway Housing. I was having some situations, and I needed to go there for 6 months. So my 6 months was up. And they said, well, Mr. Stumpf, I hate to tell you this, but you're going to have to move on. And I said, oh, okay, well, we'll see what we can do. So I start looking for a new place to live. I happened to notice this place. I was only 30 years old. And I came over here and I knocked on the door and somebody answered the door and I said, yeah, I'm looking for an apartment. Do you have any apartments for rent? And they said, well, how old are you? I said, I'm 30 years old. And they said, oh, sorry. This is for senior citizens only. I said, well, okay, well, thanks anyway. So 32 years later, I was 62 years old when I moved in here 4 years ago. When I couldn't get this place, I talked to my sister and I said, I need a place to live. I mean, and she says, well, Cliff, I'll help you out, and you can stay with me. And so I stayed with her on McGee Street and on Hudson Avenue. We had a house. We lived on Patterson Road. We was on the borderline of Dayton and Kettering, and it was over there by Dots Market. We lived right there at the corner of Wayland and Patterson Road. We stayed there for about 8 years. My sister said that she couldn't live by herself anymore because of the cancer and so forth. And this was like in 2007. We moved back in with her, and I was with her up until she passed away, and from 2007 to 2018. And unfortunately, she was getting ready to pass away, and I knew she was going to pass away, and I thought, well, it's time for me to move on because I couldn't afford the place that we were staying at. And so me and my nephew, we wasn't getting along too good, so I decided it was time to move. My one friend at church, he was saying, hey, I know a place that you might be able to get. And I said, well, what's that? And he says, it's over here on Linden Avenue. I don't know the name of the place, but it's right here off of Linden. And I said, oh, I bet you I know what you're talking about. I said, you're talking about Twin Towers. And he said, yeah, I guess that's the name of it, but it's right down this way. And I said, yeah, okay, let's go check it out. And so we went here, and I filled out an application. And I tell you what, it didn't take long. It was only 30 days. And usually places like this will take up to 3 to 4 years to get in. And it was just by the grace of God that I was able to get in here within 30 days. I've put in the application, and she says, well, Jenny was the manager at the time, and Jenny says, well, I'll call you in about a week or two and let you know if you got it or not, And so she called me and she said, well, Cliff, you got the place, but you can't move in until about the 1st of February. And I said, oh, okay. So I checked back with her a couple of times, and sure enough, it was okay to move in on the 1st of February. And I moved in and been here 4 years. It's been improved. I don't see too much of a big difference. The stress level went down a little bit because there's a lot of stress when you take care of a sister that was kind of sick. And of course, she had other people taking care of her too, but I had to make sure that everything was okay with her. When she called, I had to make sure she got what she needed. Well, they had it at different places. I did it here from the house. I'm kind of remodeling my ham shack, so we can't go see it right now. And let me tell you, the folks here, they appreciate me watching the weather. And there's sometimes they'll knock on my door. Hey, Cliff, what's going on with the weather? Oh, well, we had a spotter that spotted a tornado in Preble County, so we're keeping an eye on that and everything. Or there's one up north in Wapakoneta or whatever,
I'm Mary Crockett, and this is Profiles in Hope. We'll see you next week.